Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to New Canaan Library. My name is Heather Cimino, and I coordinate adult programs here. We are very honored and privileged to host Dorie Greenspan this afternoon. She will introduce her 15th cookbook called Dorie's Anytime CAKES. Her other cookbooks include bestsellers like Baking From My Home to Yours, Around My French Table, and Dorie's Cookies. Dorie, a 5-time James Beard winner, burned down her parents' kitchen when she was 12. She didn't start cooking again until she was a junior in college and got married to her husband, who is here somewhere, Mike. So anyway, she's a self-taught baker, and she ended up abandoning her doctoral studies in gerontology to pursue being a full-time baker. She was inducted into the who's who of food and beverage in America and awarded the Order of Agricultural Merit by France, the French Consulate, rather. She divides her time between Manhattan, Westbrook, Connecticut, and Paris. So we are also very happy to have Anna Gass here with us today to talk to Dorie. Anna is a great friend to the library. She's done cooking demos for us, and she even let us premiere her TV show called Instant Italian. We rolled out the red carpet, right? So Anna lives here in New Canaan, and Dorie will be signing books after the discussion, and Elm Street Books is here in case you didn't already buy your book. And then we have a special surprise after the event. Dan Reardon is here. If you would stand up, Dan. Dan baked cookies for everybody, cupcakes rather, and everyone could take one on their way out. So please help me welcome Dorie Greenspan and Anna Gass.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Thank you, Heather. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for coming. Thank goodness you're here.
Yeah, it's an honor. Well, thank you all for taking time out of your Sunday to be here with this superstar, Ms. Dorie. I'm going to fangirl for a minute. I have been a huge fan of Dorie for many, many years. I have all the cookbooks, including ones that she's co-authored. At Christmas time, Dorie's Cookies is always out. Her ginger snaps, are always in my tin. And I'm just very in awe of the career that you've had over the years. So I'm excited to talk to her and get a little bit more insight on the grand life of Miss Greenspan.
Thank you. You know, when you say, like, my career, I think that's like code for she's old. But I am. It's
not
okay.
old. Okay, so let's get started. A good place to start, I think, is always your childhood, right? For most of us, our deep connection to food starts when we were little. You've said that your mother wasn't really a big baker, but your grandmother was.
I hate so early in this to correct you.
Oh.
Yeah. It wasn't that she
trouble.
wasn't a big baker. She never baked. Never. Nothing. Zero.
Listen, that was the publicist in me. Okay. So she never baked.
My mother's publicist.
Yes, exactly. So she never baked, but your grandmother did. Yeah. And I loved the imagery of there was always a cake on the counter.
Yeah.
And that was, you said originally it was your grandmother that was bringing the cakes, and then eventually your mother would purchase. But I feel like food is really a tether to our childhood. Whenever you eat something and it tastes good, it's usually reminiscent of something you had as a child. How do you feel that your recipes create that tether with your mother and your grandmother?
That's a big question to start with. Yeah, it's good. It's a good question. Okay. So, I didn't think, you're a kid. You like something or you don't like something. You have no idea that things are layering in your memory. And this is my 15th book, And here and there in my other books, I talked about my grandmother, the elusive apple cake. I talked about my mother. But there was something about working on this book, something about cake, that I just found myself remembering things that were tucked away somewhere, and that it was, as you said taste tethers you to your childhood. It was tastes and thoughts. It was like working on one cake made me think about another, having a memory brought up another. And this book became something that I never expected it to be. It became kind of a journal, a memory book. It touched me in ways that I hadn't expected and certainly didn't think. Well, hadn't expected, didn't think. It's the same, but yeah, I didn't know it was going to happen. It caught me by surprise.
Well, that's nice. So we have to talk about gerontology. We have to.
Okay.
So you went from gerontology to baking.
Yes.
My first question is, because I'm a career changer as well.
What were you?
So I majored in psychology and I ended up in finance. Now here I am today in cookbooks and TV shows. So yeah, it wasn't linear.
It wasn't linear.
So I felt a connection with you with gerontology. Why did you make the switch? Why did you decide to take this big, very research-driven job and make the switch to baking? And do you feel that studying gerontology in some strange way makes you a better baker?
Let's start with part one. Okay, which was what?
Okay, going back. Why did you choose to switch from gerontology to baking?
So I got a job grew up in Brooklyn, moved to, where did we live? Ridgefield. We were neighbors. Moved to Ridgefield, Connecticut, taught school in Bethel, moved back to New York, and a neighbor said, I think I have a job for you that you'd like. And it was working in a research center, and I always say it was kind of the job that spoiled me for all other work. It was fabulous. I just worked with amazing people. We just about lived together. We cooked for one another all the time. It was where somebody said to me, you know, you can write. No one had ever said that. It never occurred to me that I could be a writer. This job was really important to me. And I was working on a project with the Administration on Aging, which was brand new then. And I went to graduate school because of that. And I studied. I quit the job that changed my life and worked on my dissertation and hated every minute of it. And Heather said I was a self-taught baker. I was and I am. I was, we got married. I was 19 years old. I hadn't cooked. I hadn't baked. All I wanted was to learn how to do this so that people would sit around our table together. And so I baked after school, after work, after school and work. And when I just couldn't see my way clear to finishing my dissertation, my wonderful husband said, you love to bake. Why don't you try and do this? And so it was Michael at that point, our son, who will be here at some point with his two daughters, my granddaughter, so this is a while ago, was 15 months old. We had a fabulous babysitter, and I went out and tried to be a baker. Did gerontology help me? What helps, I think, in any field is learning discipline and focus, right? So it's, studying anything. It can be completely unrelated, as gerontology was, and it's not so unrelated to me now. It's the study of aging, so yeah. I think it's just learning to focus on something, learning to think, learning to stay in one place for a long time. Yeah, helps.
Well, first, we should all thank Michael for saying you should be a baker. So thank you, Michael.
Hi, Michael. He's way back there.
Okay, now we have to talk about the move to Paris. Why did you decide to have a place in Paris? And do you find it opened you to a whole new world of baking inspiration?
of every kind of inspiration. Yeah. So Michael and I went to Paris. I think it was right before I got the job that changed my life that summer. And it was love. I saw Paris and thought, my mother made this terrible mistake. She had me in Brooklyn. I know she meant to have me in Paris. I just loved the city. And we kept going back. I went back. I thought, one day, maybe. And when I was 50, wonderful Michael, said, maybe this is the time to try. And we rented an apartment for 1 year, and it's 28 years later. Yeah. And it changes everything. I mean, I think travel changes us. Being interested in a subject changes the way we see everything around us. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
So when you're focused, like when I was writing the cookie book, everything looked like a cookie.
Yep.
Right? And Paris is, well, now it is, but it wasn't really a center of cookies. But I saw cookies.
You could cookify everything.
You can cookify anything, and I've cakeified cookies.
Yes.
But Paris is, for me, just a marvel. The people I meet, the friends we've made, the places we go, the ingredients I see. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to hop a flight to Paris now. Okay. Now, baking
But wait,
is...
time out. You feel that way about Italy, yes?
Yes, I do. I always have 1 foot here and 1 foot in Italy. Absolutely. So
I always say like half of my heart.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't balance very well if I did my feet.
Yeah, exactly. Now, baking is about rules. Whether we like it or not, baking is about rules. And you mention that in your book. You have a recipe, and if you want it to come out as beautiful as the one in the pages, you do need to follow the rules. But once someone kind of masters that recipe, you also talk about getting creative. So what do you really mean about, could you explain that?
Yeah, so I think, and it's the same in savory cooking, I think every person who writes a recipe for publication hopes that the reader will follow the recipe the first time, right? Yeah. So because the recipes have been developed, and I mean, I'm sure you work the same way. I create a recipe, I work on it. When I have it just the way I think it should be, I send it off to be tested, right? Then it comes back and I make... So, yeah, there are always mistakes. There's something, I mean, goblins, demons, witches that somehow sneak into a recipe after you've written them. That's what I blame mistakes on. But follow the recipe just as it's written the first time. Get an idea of what any of us who write recipes have in mind, the way we think it should work. But, you know, people say, baking, it's so hard, it's so precise. I feel like cooking is harder, that cooking has so many judgment calls. Baking, if you get a solid recipe, you follow it, you get a cake, you get a cookie, you get a tart. But what, right?
Yeah. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, you riff more in cooking, which for someone starting out could actually be more intimidating.
I still haven't figured out that thing about the steak where if you like press the soft spot. Really? So make it once, see what it's like. You can't change the basics of a baking recipe, but you can riff all around the edges. So you can change the fruit, you can add nuts, you can add dried fruit, you can change a spice, you can change the shape of the cake, you can frost it or not frost it, you can cut it in half and fill it with jam. There are all kinds of ways to play with a recipe. And my first book, Sweet Times, came out in 1991, and in it I had, at the end of recipes that lent themselves to this, it said playing around. And it was ideas for how you could tweak, riff, change the recipe. And I realized I did it because after I finished the recipe, I would think, oh, what if I had made this with strawberries? Or what if, I'm like, really, I live on the planet of what if. And so that's how playing around started. And I've done it through all of my books. And I think of it as both an encouragement for you to take the recipe and play with it and make it the way you love it, and also permission. Like,
Yeah,
go out and play.
absolutely. Now, let's talk about setting ourselves up for success, because I know when you write a book, especially with the way you write it, you are talking to an advanced baker, but you're also talking to the beginner, which I love. So if someone, like you said, wants to spontaneously bake something, which is always the most fun, right? It's a Saturday afternoon, you're a little bored, and you're like, let's bake something. What do you think that person, or what do you know that person needs to kind of have on hand so that they don't have to run out to the store and then all plans fail?
Right. So I think this book, more than any of the other baking books that I've written, lends itself to kind of, I call it whim baking. Yeah, it's Saturday afternoon, I want to bake. So there are lots of recipes that use butter, flour, sugar, eggs, and you can, use some vanilla, and basic pans, and can be made by hand. So I think that really the basics. I mean, I never not have chocolate in the house. There's always, chocolate that I can chop, or cocoa for something. I always have spices. But the basics are really enough to get you a
Get you going.
cake. Yeah. Yogurt. I love adding yogurt. I went through the recipe for the book for, I forgot why I had to do this. Evidently, I really like yogurt. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like chocolate, and I feel like when I'm writing a recipe and I'm like, I can't put chocolate in this again. This one has to be without chocolate.
So I have more chocolate recipes in the book than I thought I had put in. I mean, they didn't just appear, obviously, but I'm finding, I don't know if you feel this way, I'm loving vanilla these days.
Vanilla, just extract or the essence or just the smell?
So really good vanilla extract, I think, changes the most basic. I see a nod over there. The most basic cake. It kind of smooths out the egginess in a cake. It kind of lifts the butter to. It helps caramel. I've become a big fan of good vanilla extract.
The good stuff, yeah. Okay, so I would be very silly to not talk about Thanksgiving as it's coming up.
Yes.
So what are some great recipes in the book that you think would be really great for Thanksgiving? I know I'm going to be making the apple cheddar corn cake.
Oh,
I saw it and it spoke to me for Thanksgiving.
Oh, you surprised me. Okay, so there's a section. Good. There's a section in the back. The last chapter is called Salty Cakes, and that's where the cornbread is. I was moving to Sweetland.
I'm a savory girl. Sweet, salty.
Well, and actually, that's kind of what you'll get in the cornbread, right? So there's. Somebody asked me about pie. If your tradition is pie, please have pie. But don't change it, but maybe add to tradition. So there's a recipe in the book that actually has the word Thanksgiving in the title. It's the morning, noon, and night Thanksgiving cake. Good for breakfast, good for lunch, good for dinner, good for after. Can I just back up for a second?
Of course.
Okay, so when I wrote this book, can I back up even more?
This is your party. We're just all here. Go for it.
So I didn't plan to write this book. I actually didn't plan to write my last book either, but never mind. I got a call from the New York Times asking me if I would create 3 holiday recipes for them, cakes. And when I thought about holiday cakes, I thought of fancy. I thought of frosted. I thought of center of the table. And so I said, no. I said, I just don't, no, I'm not baking like that. I don't want to do it. And then just as I was about to hang up, there was like, comma, but if you wanted a couple or 3 simple cakes, the kinds of cakes that you might keep in the kitchen, the counter cakes, while you're making that fancy cake, so you had something to nibble on, or the kind of cake that you wanted to have in the kitchen because family was staying over the day before Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's, then I'll do that. And they said yes. And that's how the book started, this idea of simple cakes. As I was working on those 3 recipes, I just remembered how much I enjoyed creating recipes and how this was really the way I bake and how much I love baking like that. And so that's how it started. So the Thanksgiving cake has the word Thanksgiving in it. I think you could take it out to the Thanksgiving table. I'm going to, but it would be just as happy inside. And it's a sweet potato cake. And we were talking about cakeifying things. Yeah, so this is the sweet potato casserole that many of us grew up on and still love with marshmallows on top. So it's grated sweet potato and pecans and maple syrup and spices, all the stuff that would be part of the casserole. And it's got a marshmallow frosting.
Amazing.
Right, that was fun. That cake was fun to do.
Yeah, and so when I make all my pies the night before because I can't handle it on Thanksgiving.
Well, you don't also, the whole oven is filled with turkey.
So 2 days before I'm making all my pies. So my kids want the pie. But the thing about pie, it's not like a cookie. If you take a slice, we're all going to know. So I like making a simple cake. It says, these are off limits, but you can have that.
Okay. Yeah, sisters. Right. So I'm going to be doing that cake for Thanksgiving. The cake on the cover is the holiday bundt, and it's good for Thanksgiving. It's good for Christmas. I mean, it's just a good cake. So it has cranberries in it, which feels really Thanksgiving. Yeah. And this was one of the cakes that I made for the Times, and I sent it in plain, bundt cake, powdered sugar on top. Actually, I thought that was going to be the look for the whole book. It was going to be the book of brown cakes. And the editor called and said, we love the cake, but it doesn't, I said, the picture? She said, yeah, we need a little color. And so it has cranberry juice, confectioner sugar, or milk, or whatever as a glaze. And it's really pretty. And I think it could be a centerpiece. So we go to somebody else's house for Thanksgiving. They cook the turkey Thanksgiving. I meant to say thank goodness, but yeah. And so I'm going to bring that. I'm going to bring the sweet potato. Now I'm thinking about the cornbread. I'd forgotten about it.
It's a good one.
Yeah. And then there's a pumpkin bundt cake. So it has a swirl, like you put the pumpkin batter in, and then it's a cocoa in the middle that somehow bakes pudding-ish. It wasn't what I intended. It's what happened, and it's delicious. And it can have a chocolate glaze. And so that might go. And there's a carrot cake. I have a traditional, grated carrot cake. But my friend Jaini, who grew up in the Amazon, gave me a carrot cake recipe that you put carrots and all the other ingredients in a blender. You press the button. You put it in a bun pan, and you leave the kitchen and come back and have a cake. It's like magic.
It was Peru. What country is she from? I can't remember.
She's from Brazil.
Oh, she's Brazilian. Yes.
Yeah, she's Brazilian.
I remember that.
It's a fabulous cake. The color is carrot colored. And then she's got this really, really shiny chocolate glaze on it. And I wasn't really sure about carrot and chocolate.
It works.
It's so good. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I just think it should be noted that when you're making a glaze like this, and this is the genius of Dorie, is you could obviously just add a couple of drops of that awful artificial dye. But Dorie doesn't do that. It's a fruit-colored glaze. And so you're getting the flavor, and it's natural, and it's gorgeous. So just wanted to bring that up.
But I'm not, is it above or beneath? I don't object.
I don't object either.
Sprinkles.
Oh, sprinkles. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll forgive the
Okay.
sprinkle always. Okay, so this is something I think will be funny. I'd love to know your take. Do you like help in the kitchen? Help. I'm putting it in quotes. Help.
It's so funny you ask.
Really?
Yes, because yesterday, Casey, do you know Casey Elsas?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so Casey came up and stayed with us for 2 days.
He's a
He
cookbook
wrote
author as well.
a great book called What Can I Bring?
It's a great book, yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
He also ghostwrites a lot of cookbooks.
Yeah, you've read Casey without knowing.
Without
You've
knowing
read-
it was
right,
Casey,
You've cooked
yeah.
Casey without knowing you've cooked Casey. So Casey was in that. And our kitchen in Connecticut is open. So it's like there's an island, there's my desk, there's the dining room table. So there are always people sitting at the counter, the island. And I like them to just sit there,
Same, sister.
right? Don't touch my pots, don't touch my pans. Just chat or don't. You can work. I don't want help. This weekend, or the 2 days that Casey was with me, he was so great to have in the kitchen. I rethought this whole thing. So,
No, don't rethink it.
but Casey,
It depends on the person.
Okay, all right. Mostly don't touch my pots.
You're here. Okay. So with that being, did you, though, growing up, did you have your son in the kitchen? And I know you have now 2 beautiful granddaughters. Do you like having them in the kitchen with you?
Yes. So they were a little disappointed this morning. So it was a very full house. It was Casey, it was Pacifico, it was Joshua, it was Linling, it was Gemma, it was Vivi, it was us. It's a small house. We had people sleeping in the hallway. They were a little disappointed because we didn't make pancakes this morning, but we made heart-shaped waffles yesterday, and we made pancakes the morning before, and we've baked. The only reason I have cupcakes in the book, I've become a cupcake lover because of them. We've made cupcakes together. I love having them in the kitchen, and I baked with Joshua. Yeah,
So
but that's different, don't you think? I mean, you must.
It is.
With your
It's funny.
kids.
So I grew up with a mother that didn't really, my mom worked a lot. She was tired. So when she came home, she really didn't want me in the kitchen as a child. So I kind of feel like I corrected that with my kids. And it is different. And it's also when your children take, I think, and this is just general advice, if your children are interested in cooking, you should absolutely promote it, because cooking is a life skill. It is so important. And sometimes they're going to get some eggshell in the batter, and that's okay. You should always, always promote, at least my opinion, promote your children cooking and with you and watching you. So yes, I'm on the same
My
page
turn
with
to
you.
say, here.
Okay. Now this is your 15th book. I am way far behind. So I've done 2. I'm working on my 3rd. And what I would love to know is, what inspires you to continue to develop and create cookbooks? I need a pep talk.
I don't. Do I have a pep talk for you? I mean, your books are so good that those of us who love what you do want you to do more.
Thank you.
So as I said, I didn't plan on writing this book. I thought, I've written a bunch of cookbooks. I've got something about Paris that I'd like to do. I love doing this. And I'm there's always another idea. There's always something that I see that kind of spins around, and I think, what if? What if it were this? What if I could do that? It's just a case of curiosity, and I feel incredibly lucky that I not only can still write cookbooks, but that you're here, that you still want a cookbook. Yeah, it's pretty fabulous. Yeah, I'm lucky.
Well,
I'm
it
very
also
lucky.
exudes in the work that you do. I'm just so honored I got to spend this time with you and to just talk to you. I believe we are opening this up because as much as I love to hear myself chat, we want to give you the opportunity to talk to the wonderful Dorie. So, Heather, do you want my mic? Oh, you have one? Okay, so if anyone has questions, you can raise your hand. And Heather will come around with a microphone.
Thank you. No question. Okay.
Hi.
Once, when I was going out on tour, I was so afraid that no one would ask a question that my husband and my recipe tester wrote 50 questions, put them in a little index card, cute little thing in purple, and we passed them around. And you ask question number 40. Oh, you can ask question 23.
No, New Canaan is a bunch of overachievers. We have the questions for you, Dorie. Do not worry.
We do, and we have our first one right here.
What was the first thing you cooked? Your first cooking job? What were you making?
Wait, my first job or my first thing that I cooked?
No. Your first cooking job.
My first, yeah. So I actually wrote about that. It took me years, but I wrote about it in Baking from My Home to Yours. I got a job. It was really hard to get a job because, of course, I had no experience, nothing to recommend me other than I was willing to work hard for no money. And even for no money, no one would hire me. But I got a job at the Soho Charcuterie, which was a really groundbreaking place in Soho in New York. And my job was to bake 100, I think it was, every morning, 100 of these chocolate cookies that was a recipe straight from Mérite, and these chocolate cakes that they were a Simca Beck recipe. And it was a chocolate cake, and it had whiskey, and it had raisins, and I think it had pecans. So I did every morning. I baked the cookies, and then I baked the cakes, and I baked the cookies, and then I baked the cakes, and then I got bored. And so I made the chocolate cake with pecans, prunes, and Armagnac. It was kind of the same cake, but not.
She was playing around.
Yeah, and I got fired that day. It took me years to realize that I was fired for a reason that has served me well all these years: creative insubordination. Yeah, that was my first job. I then went to work for Sarah Beth, who makes the jams and stuff. Yeah, and I worked there for a few months and quit because I knew she was going to fire me. Yeah.
I really liked what you said about coming up with 50 questions that could be used. Very good idea. So I'm thinking, why is it called carrot cake, and yet it is zucchini bread?
That's a really good question. So I think, though, that I'm not sure, but I think the breads, like the zucchini bread, they've been riffed on now for years, but I think they were more like quick breads, like muffins, that they were more the kind of mix the dry ingredients, mix the wet ingredients, add the dry to the, I've forgotten which one you do, the dry to the wet or the wet to the dry. And so it was more muffin-like, less cake where you might, cream, soften the butter with the sugar. I think. I don't know.
Could also just be marketing.
Could be. Because as you're saying this, I'm thinking, what's the difference, between banana bread and banana cake? I'll
This is
get back to you.
fascinating because I've never thought about that.
Yeah, I never thought about it either.
Bravo.
Yeah.
You have a question over here?
I'm a lifelong baker, and when I had a larger family at home, there were plenty of people to eat all this, and I didn't eat too much of it. Now, with a smaller, only baking for two, I find, I see wonderful recipes for cakes. Would love to do that, but there's no way I want all that cake sitting in my house because I'm going to eat it. So do you have any tips on converting? I have many wonderful recipes from over the years for different cakes and in wonderful cookbooks. Either make the cake into the cupcake or cut the recipe in half. Is there kind of a math formula? Because it's not necessarily straightforward that you just, especially if you're going into cupcakes.
No, and I took math for poets in college. Yeah. So there must be, right? So Dan made 200 cupcakes out of the recipe that makes a dozen, it's the opposite of your situation, and said he just multiplied. It's different to cut because you've got to cut the
Like if
pan
it's one
size
egg,
and the baking
It's one
and
egg,
one
then
egg.
what do you do with one egg?
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm sure someone does. I always practice bake and release, right?
Your neighbors will love you.
Your neighbors will love you, right? Also, a lot of, and I give instructions in the book, a lot of cakes that are butter cakes that are rich in butter freeze really well. And there's also Ed Kimber's book, Baking, I think it's called Baking for Two, or, yeah. Sorry, wish I could be more helpful.
We have one over here.
In your opinion, what are the ingredients that are really worth splurging on versus the grocery store stuff you can easily buy? And second part is there a tool that you would really recommend that you think is critical in every baker's kitchen?
Great question. So really, I come back to vanilla. Really good vanilla extract. And unfortunately, vanilla prices have gone through the roof. So even buying supermarket vanilla borders on splurge. I love Sonoma Syrup Company makes a vanilla called Crush, and it's got vanilla pulp in it. It's really delicious. So vanilla, chocolate, cocoa. What would you think?
Those are definitely my three. I also think if you're baking, I go for the more expensive butter. If you're making a very, like she said, a very rich buttery cake, why not spend a little bit more on those really creamy, rich, sometimes imported butters that just really, I think, make the difference. I think another good way of looking at it is if you look at a recipe, what is this recipe showcasing, right? So if it's a very buttery cake and that's what you're going to be tasting, splurge on that. So like that's kind of how I look at it, because you can't, I mean, groceries are very expensive. You can't go crazy with everything, but that's kind of my rule of thumb.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I think when you're using, I'm just really cocoa for me. I use either Guittard or Valrhona. And the prices have gone crazy, but the flavor, it really does make a difference. As for a tool, a mixer, yeah.
A baking tool or just a tool in general?
Baking, yeah, mixer.
Yeah, I mean,
Mixer.
a KitchenAid. Oh, I don't know if we should say the name, but they're not sponsoring us today. No.
So
A mixer is
I
really
would say
important.
a mixer. I was looking at, do you know Claire Saffitz? She wrote Dessert Person, and yeah. So Claire's book, she uses only a hand mixer.
I think that's step one. Isn't the mixer so heavy? So sometimes, especially with
Even
this
the
book-
hand mixer is heavy, by the way. You're holding it for a
Yes,
long time. It's like
yes.
heavy, yeah.
But I do love in this book, you can do a lot with just either a wooden spoon or a hand mixer.
Yeah. Also a microplane grater, but that's almost beside the point.
Okay, we have one more up here.
I'd like to hear about what it was like to work with Julia Child in the Baking with Julia cookbook. I have that. I love that cookbook, and
I
she's
have
such a
that
wonderful
cookbook, too.
person.
That's a
I
great
hope you can
book.
share that with everybody.
Thank you. So the book Baking with Julia, I adore that book. So it was the book came out in 96, so either this is 94 or 95 that we were working together, and it was to do the PBS show, Baking with Julia, where there were 26 bread bakers and pastry chefs, and they came to Julia's house and baked in her kitchen. They also baked in the basement so that they could bake in the kitchen. It was a house filled with people going up and down stairs with big bowls, and I had met Julia in 1991 when my first book came out. I was invited to do a demonstration. I didn't understand that if you wrote a book, you actually had to leave home and talk to people. And I had never done any kind of demo. And I did this push-button cake called 15-Minute Magic because I thought, I can't go wrong. And Julia was there, and Jacques Pepin was there, and I was the last one. So you saw Julia, you saw Jacques, then you saw me. And after it was over, Julia said, we're all having dinner together. Will you come and sit with me? And I said, this has nothing to do with that experience, but it leads up to it. So I sat with Julia, and in the middle of dinner, she said, do you ever see that Saturday Night Live that Dan Aykroyd did? I said, Julia, no. She said, I'll show you how it goes. And she stood up, and she did the whole routine. So that's how I met Julia. That was my first meeting with Julia. And we kept in touch, and she asked me to work on this book, and I said no, because I was working for the Food Network. I was like in showbiz. And when I called 6 months later, they hadn't gotten anybody else to write. So yeah, I was lucky. Julia in person is the Julia you see on camera. She is so warm. She's encouraging. She's generous. She's hysterically funny. She knows she's hilariously, or knew she was hilariously funny. Her timing as a comedian was perfect. She loved food. She loved people. She loved sharing things. We would finish, so I would be looking at 4 monitors and trying to see what people would do, because chefs notoriously don't write things down perfectly. And so I had asked ahead of time, I had worked with all the chefs, what recipes will you do on camera? What can I have for the book? And, like little scraps of paper would arrive. So I would be watching, Julia would be down there. We'd have a full day of prep for the next day and filming that day. It was film. And then we would all have dinner together, and we would cook at her house. So whoever the chef was who was there would be in the kitchen. Julia loved having help in the kitchen. And she labeled all of her appliances. To make coffee, 1 cup of, 1 cup of water, 1 tablespoon of coffee. The coffee is in the cupboard to the left. Everything was labeled so that also like the bathroom had all kinds of instructions, everything. So that you could always be in the kitchen and do things right with her. She was everything you wanted her to be. Yeah.
Thank you. We have another question here.
Oh, wait. That's Michael Greenspan back there. Can we call on him? I can't
hang
hear
on
a
one
word
second.
you're
Let me
saying.
get you a microphone.
So just to add to what Dorie was saying about Julia, at the wrap party, Dorie's going to go home and write the book. And she says to Julia, I'm going to start writing the book, and I'm going to send you the chapters, as I write them. And Julia says, dear, go home and write the book. It's your book.
Yeah.
She never, ever looked at any of the work that Dorie did, because she was Julia. She just trusted you, and she knew that Dorie would do a good job, and it was just
It's a
Dorie's
testament
book.
to you and
No,
how much she trusted you.
me far more than I trusted myself. Yeah, she was, yeah. Thanks, Beanie.
Hi, Dorie. Nice to meet you. I'm so happy I'm here. I'm a huge fan. I'm also Brazilian, so I'm very familiar with the carrot cake in the blender. Super easy, guys. So I imagine all your recipes are like your babies, right? But which one is your favorite?
I thought we had gotten through this afternoon without anybody asking that question. So I have favorites for, I can't say to you, make this cake, it's my favorite. I have favorites for lots of reasons. The honey cake just thrilled me because a friend gave me the recipe. One of the cakes that my grandmother would bring was honey cake, and I had never made a cake. I'd made cakes that reminded me of her cake, but I'd never made one that really felt on the tongue, because it had a very particular texture and tasted like my grandmother's cake. So I love the honey cake for sentimental reasons. I love the yogurt cake because you can do anything with it, and it was really the first cake when we moved to Paris. It was the first cake that somebody told me about. I love the visiting cake. So it was a cake that the recipe was given to me by someone who worked in the farm stand that I shopped at, and she brought it to our house. Her name was Ingela. She grew up in Sweden, and she said, "This is the cake my mother made, and you make it so quickly that when you see people coming up the road, you can make this cake, and it'll be ready by the time they have their coats off and are going to have coffee." And I made this cake for decades, and in this new book, I, for the first time, fooled around with it. I played around with it, and I did rum-soaked raisins and apple on top, and I made it thicker, which really changes the
I made this cake, so I can attest it is
It's
a
good,
very,
right?
very special cake. Yes.
And it's easy. So it's really, I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question. It's really, I can't. Sorry.
We have a question back here.
Hi, Dorie.
Hi.
Long time admirer of yours, of your career, and of your sweets. I'm here with my son, my teenage son, and I'm very excited to delve into this new book about cakes, but I wanted to ask you a cookie question, if that's okay,
Yes.
or two. I love that you have more than 10 versions of chocolate chip cookie recipes. I'm sure I would like all 10 and more. They can be thin and crispy, they can be chewy and salty, all the different versions. I'm a fan. But I have two questions. If you had to recommend one to try in the next couple weeks leading up to Thanksgiving, is there one that you like of yours or one that you recommend of yours? And then also, there's a chocolate chip cookie landscape out there now that is ever expanding. You have Levain, you now have Martha Stewart at Crumble, you have Tate's, you have, is there someone else's recipe that you really like or would want to recommend?
Okay. I actually love I think I call it my classic chocolate chip cookie. It's like, I really love that cookie. And you can do whatever you want with it, but I love it just the way it is. And I have two other cookies that I adore. One is the World Peace Cookie, which is a chocolate sablé, a chocolate shortcake with chunks of chocolate and fleur de sel. It's a great, great cookie. And the Jammer, which is a vanilla sablé, a vanilla shortbread with some jam in the center and streusel around the edges. And I make it in rings, but it can be made in a muffin tin, so it has beautiful sides and it caramelizes. I don't like the really, really big cookies that we're seeing now. I like cookies. I like cookies that have an interesting texture. I like cookies that have a change in texture, so you can have a crunchy edge and something a little softer. I find the really big cookies, like the Levain cookies, this is just my taste, they don't taste baked in the center for me. And I don't really like raw cookie dough, so I'm not, no, I can't send you any place for no.
You just have to
Bake your
bake.
own.
You just have to
Right.
bake Dorie's cookie.
Bake your own.
Here's another question.
But it is interesting that there is a cookie landscape now. That's a great expression.
While we're on the subject of favorites, what are your grandchildren's favorite cooked cake, and do you let them help?
Oh, so what I've been baking with the girls, they're the plain from the cookie book. I think the title is do anything with it vanilla dough and do anything with it chocolate dough. The rollout, it's a dough that you roll out, and I always roll my dough right after I make it, so I don't chill it and then have to bash it and fight with it, right?
Okay, mind blown.
Oh, you don't?
I never understand because I'm a rule follower when I bake because I'm not a confident baker. But then we're putting it in the fridge, but then we're taking it out of the fridge, and then we have to let
it's
it
too
come
hard.
back.
Yep.
Well, then it's too hard. So how long in the fridge, and then maybe I cut how long in the fridge. So you're giving me permission.
Oh, you must. Yeah, I'm not only giving you permission. I'm giving you orders. Right. Okay, so the way you do it, you make the dough, and I do this with tart dough and pie dough also.
Yes.
So it comes, and you haven't baked your pies yet, right? Good. Okay, so it comes out of the mixer, or it comes out of the bowl if you make it by hand, and it's really soft, and you can do anything with it. What you should do with it is put it between 2 sheets of parchment paper, roll it out, just like that. Then chill it. Right, so it needs to be chilled because the whole thing about gluten, which I really don't understand, but I can repeat, the gluten's been activated. If you just try and put it in a baking tin right away and bake it, it'll shrink, right? So it has to be refrigerated. But it doesn't have to be refrigerated right after you make it. So roll it and then, pull it out of the refrigerator. I just keep stacks of tart dough, because I love tarts, in the freezer, just lined up, right? So you bring it out.
Life-changing.
You wait.
Beating of the dough.
It's over.
It's over.
Right, you have to
ending it today.
And you just have to wait until it's malleable enough to put it in and not break it. So with the kids, they're 3 and 5. I make the dough. Sometimes I let them roll out some of it, but I roll out the lion's share of it, and then we cut it and bake it and then ice it and sprinkle it. So I think with kids, in the beginning, I thought they had to do every part of it with me. But that's not really a whole lot of fun for them, and it was really not a lot of fun for me. And so I just moved to a step that would be fun with them. And so that dough is really great for decorating. It's tasty. You can make it into a cookie. And in fact, I think I have 5 different things you can do with that dough. But we just roll it out and have fun decorating it.
Okay. So I think I speak for all of us. Thank you so much for coming to New Canaan.
Thank you.
What
Thank
an
you.
honor
Thank you
to
all
have
for
you here.
coming. Thank you for inviting me. You're wonderful.
Come
Thank
back
you.
with every single book you write. We will be waiting.